He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He is, and we will say it, the greatest wrestling announcer of all time. He's got one of the most popular and successful wrestling podcasts that you can listen to, next to, of course, the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling, in the Ross Report. And it is our pleasure to welcome back to the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling the one and only good old JR, Jim Ross. Welcome back to the Two-Man Power Trip.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You'll get a cheesesteak on Chad here at the Two-Man Power Trip if you come up wearing one of those old-school Monday Night Raw bomber jackets that I know you wore for many, many years next to the King there. And I don't know how many of those sold from the old WWF shop there, but those bomber jackets are one of the bigger keepsakes of that early 1997 Attitude Era.
Yeah, like a lot of things in my career, I wish I'd get more souvenirs and more. I've gotten so much really cool attire over the years. I think I still got a UWF jacket I got from the Watts family back in the day, but a lot of stuff I guess I never thought they'd have any value. So, but nonetheless, those jackets that was quite the piece, and the attitude. That was a whole different thing. Our attire was kind of spoke to what the show was about as far as attitudinal and things of that nature. So it'll be fun. Anytime Jerry and I are together, we have a lot of fun. And I've often said, we could probably go on a coast-to-coast car trip with cameras in a RV or something and produce a hell of a reality show, because we just seem to have, I guess it worked that way on TV too. We have great chemistry, and that's something I'll always value.
Absolutely. And for our tickets, you can go to our Facebook page, and it's facebook.com/TMPT of Wrestling. Again, it's facebook.com/TMPT of Wrestling. And if you have access to the brownpapertickets.com website, you can search Jim Ross Icons, and you can buy tickets through the Brown Paper Tickets link that we've just created for this special one-of-a-kind event that we've got with JR at the Icons of Wrestling. But JR, obviously this year has been a hell of a year for you from the professional standpoint, obviously reuniting back with the WWE, and just as we're recording this, coming off of an absolutely gigantic weekend out there in California as the New Japan G1 USA special really captivated the pro wrestling audience and put on, in my opinion, the best wrestling television on cable TV that we've seen in a very, very long time. But I guess the general question would be is, what did you think coming off of it? It was such a great event. It was so awesome to watch it and listen to you. But what was your take on the weekend and how everything went?
Well, I'd like to sit back somewhere along the way and watch those shows, and I will. But I'll know more about it, a better feel. It was just a real busy time. It was a challenging from a production standpoint. The language issues within the crew was a little challenging for them, I think. And we had a really hard-working crew. But when you've got a Japanese cameraman and you've got American cameraman, and they don't speak each other's language, and you don't have a bilingual person in the truck, it can make things a little dicey sometimes as far as communication is concerned. So, but I had a great time. I mean, the wrestling was great. Really strong from good to great. I didn't see any matches that I thought were a little bit weak. Some were obvious, just like any card. Some are better than others. But I really enjoyed the in-ring product. I enjoyed seeing a lot of old friends. I enjoyed watching these New Japan guys work. And they're ambitious guys. They want to compete. They want to they want to have a presence in North America, and so lofty goals, no doubt about that. But I had a lot of fun, and it was, I don't know if I'll be around Access TV if they do another live event, because I expect if they do another live event, maybe 2018, and I don't know what my contract status with them is going to be at that point in time, unless something unforeseen works out. But I had a lot of fun. I was there 7 days. We did 8 hours worth of voiceovers on Tuesday, including Okada and Omega 2, and Naito and Tanahashi, which is it's about 40 minutes, I think. We did 8 hours worth of voiceovers that day. Did 4 complete shows. and then doing 4 hours live on Saturday and 4 hours live on Sunday, live to tape. I can tell you, when I got home, I was spent, and it's just, you put so much of your passion and your emotions in it that you leave there a little bit. Man, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but boy, I need a nap.
And I'll tell you, it's not just blowing smoke up your fanny here, but to tell you the truth, as a fan who's watched New Japan Pro Wrestling, with the Japanese commentary, obviously there's language barriers, from my point of view, and to hear your voice be the soundtrack for these matches and getting to see them for the first time, it just adds so much to it. And watching the lead-in for the matches on Saturday night and not catching it on Friday but being able to watch it before the big show on Saturday, it just really felt the big fight feel was there. And I got to tell you, from that perspective, I personally loved it. But how about the fans that were in attendance there? Did you catch the vibe from them that they were in for something special? Because coming off, these fans now, especially the ones that sold that place out as fast as they did, they seem rabid and getting ready for that first bell to ring. And did you feel that sitting in the commentary booth there, that they were ready to see something special?
Oh yeah, they helped us. I think I think Josh Barnett and I both would tell you that the excitement level was palatable there. It was infectious. These fans came from all over the country. I think someone told me, and I'm assuming they knew what they were talking about, that there were fans from over 30 states that traveled to Long Beach to attend that weekend's events. And I know I saw my old friend Alex Marvez there, who works for Sirius and does NFL broadcasting for Sirius. And he and another couple of guys came from, or one guy came from Jacksonville. Alex lives in Miami. So there are a lot of guys and gals traveling that just indicates how passionate they are about the product. So I can't imagine anybody leaving Long Beach that would have complained about the live event experience. The only thing that I would say that it could be considered a negative was the fact that all the seats on the floor were on the flats. So there was no bleachers. So if you were lucky enough to sit up front, you're cool. But if you're in the back part of the building, it might have been a little challenging because people were standing a lot. So that would be the only thing I could even think of that would be remotely negative, and I didn't really hear anybody talk about it, so maybe it wasn't. But it was good. The crowd can do so much for a show. We know that from watching TV shows and watching the crowds. Well, that was a good crowd on Raw. Well, the crowd didn't react. Or, the crowd at Impact, at the studio, the TV thing there to Orlando. That could have been better. All that good stuff. The crowd's important, and this crowd helped the show a lot. So if the TV broadcast was solid, one of the reasons it was because the live audience helped it get over the hump, and they did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. It really felt like that, and it bled through the television, especially for the duration of how long the show was. And obviously through, the first bell through the last, just obviously excitement and a lot of great action. But do you yourself, obviously, you've been to every arena you could possibly think of off the top of your head. Do you go out there before the show starts, and especially for a first-time venture like a New Japan in the States, and kind of check it out before the doors open to kind of catch the vibe of the arena before those fans walk through the gates?
I was there on Friday night while they're setting up. That's when I discovered we didn't have bleachers, which was a concern. Absolutely, because you want to go where you're going to sit, what's your vantage point, where the monitor's going to be, and I got there early on Saturday so we could make sure we could do a sound check. It's a real ambitious undertaking for the Access TV folks who do MMA 40 weeks a year, I think, on Friday night, something like that. But they had never done pro wrestling. So we had a brand new crew that had essentially no experience whatsoever in pro wrestling. And I thought we rallied together and came through with an excellent effort. The desire and the will to be good was there. I had some flub ups that I asked somebody, who the hell, which one is Jay, which one's the Briscoe brothers, which one's which. And God almighty, and we asked one of the ringside guys, Josh Barnett, and I said, well, Josh, we need to make sure. So one guy says, well, I can't remember, Mark or Jay, one of them doesn't have any front teeth. I said, okay, that doesn't help me unless you're going to be shooting their smile. I need, give me some. Well, the ball guy is whatever what it was. So anyways, wrong. And then we didn't do well on that. And then of course, I got hammered on social media because I made that mistake. People forget, we're human. We're doing a live television show, and it was just a real. I wish we had not had those errors. I can tell you this: when I saw the Briscoes on Sunday, I apologized to both of them for screwing that up. And I took complete responsibility for it, even though I got bad information. But I own it. I got to take. That's my deal. So I apologize to those guys. I have great respect for their work, and always have. So I wish we had not done that. But and I'm not. I don't live this product. I don't live. Kevin Kelly and Don Callis are there. They live it all the time. They were there in the building doing some stuff. But I think that people will see that our second show was much cleaner and much smoother than was our first show. And, of course, the second show also was highlighted by the United States title tournament, which I thought that the final match with Omega and Ishii was absolutely tremendous. So, and the Young Bucks had a real good match on that second night with Roppongi Vice. It ended up being Roppongi Vice's apparent last match as a team. So I was very, I was really happy that I had the chance to do two live shows, not in voiceovers, but actually sitting at the arena, sitting at ringside, and being able to do what I enjoy doing more than anything, any other phase of the wrestling business, and that's do live commentary.
It's so incredibly soothing to the ears to hear you on commentary, no matter what promotion it's for. Just because we're used to you growing up, we've been listening to you our whole wrestling lives, give or take, for the most part. But one of the cool things I think what that whole weekend brought was the U.S. title tournament, and that was just not it was something. It was an added incentive. And did you feel that was something that was a great hook for this crowd and for these fans attending, is that they were going to see not just a great IWGP Championship match, but they were going to actually see a first-ever champion crown, and that always is going to hold a placeholder in their hearts and as fans that they saw something special that nobody else in that building got a chance to see.
Absolutely. I think, we wrestling fans love to anticipate. We love the build of something. And we love, I think, to be a part of something that's new, fresh, or the first of its kind. And so we all knew going into that tournament in that weekend that we were going to see a new champion crowned, and we did, obviously. But the talents, the 8 talents that were in the tournament, I thought really delivered. And the second night of the tournament, which was the semifinals, obviously the finals, was just tremendous. I'm a tournament guy. I like tournaments. I think they're very athletic. They have an athletic feel. The New Japan product has an athletic feel. So their technique, their presentation fit the tournament facet of it. And our commentary with Josh and my work is largely athletic based. We're not really. It wasn't an entertainment television show. It was entertaining television, but it was a sports presentation because that's what Access TV does with their MMA, and it's what the New Japan folks do every night with their product. So it was really a compelling package altogether. But I think people love to see first. They love to be a part of a little bit of history. And so they got to see that. The event, historic, and then the formation of this tournament. And you got to believe that this tournament, this title is going to be around for a long time. And so when people see the final with Omega and Ishii, those that haven't seen it as we speak, you're going to love it because it was just really a great story. They didn't overthink it. It was just so logical and plausible and believable. So I really I really enjoyed that whole presentation. So it was a good weekend for me. I would have liked to have not been called the carpet by some fans about a couple of boo-boos I made. But, hey, look, you're doing live TV. There's no net. You live with what you say. Do the best you can, and hopefully you get better next time. I've been doing this a long time. I've never called a perfect match ever, and my best work has yet to be recorded. So that's how I approach every job. I'm going to be going down soon to Orlando to record a bunch of matches for the Mae Young Classic, and all I can do is say that I hope that my best work to date will be at that tournament, and that'll be in place until I do some more work somewhere down the road. So that's the whole deal. You can't rest on your laurels, and I can't stay in a comfort zone, and you want to get better all the time. And so I wish that some of that had been better, but I think that that's what you get when you have a crew that's outmanned and you got not a lot of experience, and it's just you're going to have those deals. But I like this. I like the fact that everything you heard was real. Everything you heard was, if it was a mistake on my part, a fumble, then it was real. It wasn't packaged or rehearsed or anything. We rehearsed nothing. I love that part of it. Went out and did a live, just like we would do a ball game. I didn't have any idea who was going to win any of the matches. I didn't talk to anybody from New Japan, neither did Josh, about what was going on, the creative that night. Didn't want to know. Somebody told us on the way down, well, you're not going to, the New Japan people are not going to, they don't want you guys in the locker room, and nobody's going to talk, they're not going to tell us about the creative. Well, first of all, I don't give a damn if I ever go into the locker room. Who cares? I've been in more locker rooms than anybody on their roster, number one, so fine, that's your policy, cool with me, I'm fine with that. And I would prefer not to know what the creative is going to be. Why do I need to know the creative? It makes it more of a work, makes it more of a showbiz presentation. If we're doing great athleticism, then it's entertaining enough for me. So it worked out great. I agree with that philosophy. I don't need to go in their locker room, so check that off the box. And secondly, if somebody tried to tell me what's going on, I would say, whoop, I don't need to know that. Thank you very much. Have fun out there. We'll call what we see. So that was how it worked. But it was a good weekend, hard work weekend, but a rewarding weekend. And I'm very happy to be a part of the Access TV team. And now I'm handing it off. I'm going to go be part of the WWE team again. So the bottom line is I'm a wrestling fan. I get to do a lot of wrestling. So I got nothing to complain about. It's all good.
Which is great, and I definitely will get into, the WWF stuff, the Mae Young Classic, but I wanted to stick on New Japan just for a second if I could. Now, you mentioned Omega, obviously, and Ishii in the finals there. A lot of people say, Omega, everyone's talking about how great he is, but it's really they're kind of missing the boat on some of these Japanese guys. What do you think about the Stone Pitbull Ishii? What are your thoughts on him? Because to me, he's really one of the top guys in wrestling.
He's one of my favorites to broadcast for. I've never spoken a word with him. I don't know if he speaks any English, and I have enough trouble with English, to try to add Japanese to my repertoire. I love his work. I've seen him work a lot. He's been in a lot of the TVs we've done. When I first started there, and I came in when Morrow went to WWE, I had a bunch of seemingly multiple Ishii and Makabe matches. And I had them also at Wrestle Kingdom 9, if I recall correctly, and they beat the hell out of each other. Old school, tough guy stuff, legit tough guys. So I like him. I think he looks a lot like a pro wrestler. He carries himself with pride and confidence. He sells fantastically, and he sells where you're not rolling your eyes like, oh God, that's horrible. He took me right out of the moment. Everything he does is authentic and believable. And when wrestlers can do things that are authentic, believable, and non-eye-rolling, they have a real good chance of being very successful. And this guy is really fun to watch.
He's so good, and it's crazy to say almost underrated at this point because he just continues to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. But what about a guy like Kazuchika Okada, who's arguably one of the greatest wrestlers right now? You can almost say he's one of the greatest of all time with the amount of great matches he just throws out there. Literally put anybody in the ring with him, and he's just going to have an awesome match. What do you think about the Rainmaker?
I love him. He was one of the guys when I went to do Wrestle Kingdom 9. he was one of the guys that asked to take a selfie. And I was still learning my way and who these young guys are. And that was 3 years ago, I think. He's just 29 now. He'll be 30 this fall. So he was a young pup. But, boy, he's a good-looking kid. He looks like a movie star. And he's 6'3", and he's going to continue to fill out. Great presence. I can tell you this. He and our group and a handful of guys from New Japan, primarily Tiger Hattori, the great referee back in the day, and one of the office guys, still referees some. And we were drinking, I think I mentioned on my podcast, we were at the rock bottom, ironically enough, and we had ample amounts of tequila. And the champion can drink tequila with the best of them. So he's a nice kid, classy, and he's exactly, if you want a big company, he's exactly what the guy you want, that kind of guy, being your top dog. Reliability, the look, the resilience. He's great in a PR setting. He's a good-looking kid, as I mentioned. So he's got an unlimited upside. He may end up, if he can stay healthy and he stays in New Japan long enough, to be the greatest IWGP champion they've ever had. He has that opportunity to exceed the Inokis and the Tanahashis and Mudas and all those guys. And all those guys are all Hall of Famers. But this kid is young, and they have confidence in him. The audience is having confidence. Look at the matches he's had this year. All his opponents have a different identity and different strengths. And this kid had a great match with Minoru Suzuki. He's got a unique style. With Omega twice. Shibata. Tiger Mask W. All these different styles, and he was able to still have a great match, almost seamless transitions with them on a big stage. So he's really special. He's one of the probably the top 5 workers, maybe or less, in the whole world. So he's got an amazing future. And somebody said, well, he was in TNA. I don't even remember him being in TNA. So I'm not throwing TNA on the bus. It's probably going to sound like it, but obviously, if they had really known what they had, they could have got a lot more mileage out of it, because I watch their show as much as I can. I don't even remember him being on it, but obviously he was. But he's a real special guy. He follows me on Twitter, and I follow him, and just a good kid. And I think that he's just going to be as big as he wants to be, and as he can be. And then the other question, people, well, who of those guys are going to go to WWE? Look, I don't have any idea. A lot of those guys have a very vested interest in their company. They're very proud of what they're building there at New Japan, and that's the same feel that I used to get in a territory. That a territory had pride. The Mid-South territory, UWF. That we had pride in our territory, we had pride in our company, because our leader insisted on it, demanded it, in Cowboy Bill Watts. So it was a college or pro team sports kind of a feel, and I get that from that New Japan group. So it's really fun to work to do their matches, and doing stuff live is nothing better than that. But we're going to be doing some great stuff. We still got the G1 coming up from this year, and we turned around the time on when it happens and when it airs. So all good stuff, man. It's just really a good opportunity for me to reinvest in commentary, and they have given me that opportunity to do a lot of regular commentary. So I'm very happy to be a part of it.
And what was it like with Okada? I mean, the big match feel, the main event on night one, obviously against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. But what was it like calling, Dusty's son's match? He's in the main event. He's kind of making his own name for himself. Was that special for you? Because that really had this huge, big fight feel to it. It really felt like, especially with you calling it, so much drama and intrigue, and it felt like the crowd was so into that match.
I thanks for the big match feel thing. I try to shoot for that. I really do. And you can't make a big match feel unless it's a big match. if you do, then I'm doing the same thing I chide talents for doing, being disingenuous and being, not real believable. And so if I try to be make every match the big match feel, then I'm going to lose any credibility that I have. But that was easy. It had a big match feel. And I felt the presence of Dusty. I believe Dusty was a part of that presentation in some degree. And certainly his son felt that way, it seemed like. And I had a feeling that Dusty was watching this match, as surreal as that may sound. So, and I thought Cody made a great accounting of himself. I was really proud of his effort, and he's getting better and better. He's not nearly as good as he's going to be. He's really maturing and improving with his in-ring stuff. He's processing things really well, putting things together. So it was a true big match feel, and those guys, they brought it. They brought it athletically, they brought it psychologically, and the great thing about the New Japan product, they protect the finishes by and large. And I can't say that happens in every company, because you got to give somebody your finish 4 or 5 times. It used to be if you gave a guy your finish multiple times, there was one message that you got across. That was the guy was really tough, and it took everything this guy had and more to beat the opponent with the finish. I'm not a big fan of that. I understand it occasionally, but when you got to do it 3 or 4 times, I think there's overkill there. But I love the fact that their match was very respectful and is logical, is athletic. They laid their stuff in, so it was a real true main event. And I know this is an old cliche, but that match could be a main event anywhere. The time they put in, the fundamentals, the psychology, their look, their presentation, the finish, everything that would pass as a main event in anybody's company at any event. So I was really honored to be a part of that, I can tell you. So I know Josh was too. Josh Barnett's a great partner, and he's got my back, and I got his, and he's such a wealth of information on the New Japan brand and the culture, and certainly submissions. And submissions now, guys, as you both know, is a lot bigger part of pro wrestling than it's ever been. When you see baby faces submitting in a match, you used to never see that happen on the main event level. Main event baby faces rarely ever submitted or said I quit or give up or whatever. It happens, of course, but very seldomly. And now, because of UFC and MMA in general, it's not as frowned upon. And the wrestlers themselves don't have the ego issues that many of them did in the previous generation if they have to lose by submission. So changes in the business come and go, and that's just one of the good ones, I think.
Now, obviously, you mentioned before your trip down to Orlando, the Mae Young Classic, kind of working for the WWE again, switching gears a bit here. How did that kind of all happen for you? How did that all kind of transition? Obviously, you worked a UK special, which was great. Another kind of big match feel to it is when you and Nigel were a part of it. So how did that all come together with the WWE?
Well, let's see how that all came about. I had never stopped communicating with WWE, and the WWE had never stopped communicating with me. And basically, I was in contact with Vince regularly. We're friends, and we're still friends. And if I saw something on TV I liked, I might send him a text or something like that. Kevin Dunn and I are friends from OU football. He's an OU football fan. A lot of people don't know that. And so that was kind of our link. And Triple H, one of the guys I signed, and he's done pretty well for himself there, like a lot of the guys that we were fortunate enough to get under contract. So I just, moved on. They didn't have a spot for me at that point in time, and that was cool. I had plenty of work to do. I really reinvented myself, and I had plenty of projects to work on. But my wife, God bless her, really wanted me to go back to the home team, as she called it, because my wife and I got together in the late 80s, and but I was a WCW guy then, and then I went to WWE in '93, and then she and I got married in the fall of '93. So during our whole marriage, I was started out as a WWE guy, and we worked our way through the ranks there, and with a couple of setbacks, but we endured. Didn't quit, and so she was really the catalyst for keeping me motivated to do that. And she was right. I mean, I wanted to go back to get my jersey back and go play a little bit. I had some what I felt like to be unfinished business. So Kevin Dunn and then working through Vince was very, very instrumental in me coming back. And so it was the Friday night before WrestleMania. This was a week after my wife got killed. I signed my contract. They were negotiating. I have a manager, Barry Bloom, who represents a lot of guys. Represents Goldberg and Jericho and Foley, I think, and maybe there's others. But anyway, we got our deal done, and I signed that contract on Friday night, got it notarized, and then they told me, I think it was on Saturday, day before WrestleMania, that Vince wanted me to work a match. And I said, no problem. What time do I need to be there? And I went there, and I found out on Saturday that they wanted me to work the Undertaker's match, and by the way, it's going on last. So I was very honored that Vince had picked me to call that match with Cole and JBL. So it was the best. It was a great way to get put back on the team, and we kept it under wraps as best we could. But so many guys, so many leaks. Guys calling me that, can you give me a story? Can you give me the scoop? All this, and it got to be ridiculous. I mean, the wrestling websites and guys that have podcasts like you guys and me. Oh, I got to have a story. What's the deal? I hear this, I hear that. Well, I didn't answer those calls. I didn't want to feed that monster. Let somebody else feed it, because there's plenty of guys that love to do that, and it would want to be me. So it was good. It was the whole thing was a good, healthy negotiation, and the biggest aspect of negotiation, believe it or not, was not the money. WWE stepped up big time on the money, but it was my other obligations that I had ongoing, my podcast, my Access TV contract. My book was in the process of being written and so forth. So, but those are the business issues that had to be worked through. But they were all satisfied to everybody's level of comfort. So that's how it came together. It was just communication. Same thing, fellas, you got to do in any walk of life. We communicated. They wanted something, and I wanted something, and we got on the same page. And I'm really glad. I don't expect to ever not be a part of WWE at this point in time in my life. That's not my goal is to be there till I can't do my job very well. And I'll tell you, with the social media like it is and everybody's sensibilities as they are, the last thing I want to do is overstay my welcome and be an embarrassment to my body of work. I'm not going to let that happen. And so I plan on being a WWE guy for the duration. And in a perfect world, if I was allowed to do it, I don't know that I'm not, don't know that I am, I'd love to be able to continue to do my Access TV work, because I think it keeps me sharp. It keeps, unless you call a lot of matches, it's a couple, 3 days a month is all in L.A., not a bad place to hang your hat. So I hope that I can continue to do both. But the WWE is always going to be in my professional life and personal life, quite frankly. My wife was a big part of the success of that Attitude Era. People don't even want to talk about sometimes because it's just not it's not timely. I don't know. But, she was really a great coach's wife, so to speak. And so I have a vested interest in that company in a lot of ways, a lot of areas. And I feel like our contributions in my run there were significant in the foundation of this new publicly traded company. And I'm proud of that. So I want to continue to contribute. And right now, if I can help a Nigel McGuinness or a Lita or anybody else on commentary, I'm excited about that opportunity. It's like building a roster, helping build an announce roster, like I helped build a talent roster back in the day. So it's all good stuff, and I need this right now. I need to stay busy. I need to stay healthy, mentally healthy, physically healthy, because, I lost my partner. I lost my best friend 30 seconds from our garage, 30 seconds from sitting right now, to a guy that was not paying attention. He's driving, and he ran over her in a 2000 Mercury Marquis, and she was on a Vespa. And when I say he ran over her, I mean he ran over her and caught the bike and her underneath his car, and it was absolutely horrible. So I got to get over that. I got to get past all that stuff. And the WWE and Access TV are helping me do that. And I need this right now. I need to continue to be busy and productive and positive. And that's why sometimes when you read, somebody sends you a tweet or something somewhere, and they'll say, well, JR screwed that, the Briscoe brothers, for example. Well, JR's had all those strokes. Well, I haven't had any strokes. I've had Bell's palsy. JR's too old. Well, I don't think I'm too old, but it's your opinion. And you read stuff like that where it's embarrassing that somebody would go there. If you don't like my work, that's cool, but don't give all the reasons. Well, he's had strokes. Wrong. He's too old. Wrong. He's not the same. He's not prepared. Well, that's really wrong. So it's a tough time to be a wrestling announcer, quite frankly, but it's a great time to be a fan, without a doubt.
Well, you've definitely had a rough year as far as personally is concerned, and our heart goes out to you, and hopefully the WWE and New Japan and Access TV can keep you strong, like you said, mentally and physically. But of course, you got to ignore those Twitter trolls. I think they're looking for something. They want you to respond. You know what I mean? They want to be like, oh, I got under JR's skin, something like that.
Oh, you're right. I gotta be smarter. Look, guys, I'm competitive. I've always been competitive. And you come up the business like I did, and you get in the business like I did, where you're not somebody's relative, you're not related, you're not a shooter, you're not a world-class athlete, et cetera, et cetera. Complete cold turkey, getting in the back door, working for Bill Watts and Leroy McGurk at 22. And I wasn't supposed to stay long. I thought I'd have a summertime job. I'd have some great stories to my wrestling fan buddies when I went back to school in the fall, and that's how it would be. Well, 40 years later, I'm still waiting to go back to that one more semester of college, and I'm not sure I'm not going to do that someday. But I'm just, it has lasted so much longer than I ever dreamed. I had the dream career, but I wasn't supposed to make it. And unfortunately for me, or maybe it's fortunate, I'm not sure, I believe that to this day, that I got to go out and prove myself every day. Every broadcast, you got to prove yourself. Today's audience that didn't hear my work in the 80s or the 90s, the Attitude Era, the 2000s, they're young, they're defiant, they're millennials, they have a little different mindset. They don't know my history. And so I have to prove myself to them that I'm worthy of them investing their time to listen to my broadcasts. So I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not, I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm in 3 Halls of Fame. Who cares? For the young fans, they don't give a damn. They just give a damn about themselves and what they're hearing now. What can you do for me now? What have you done for me lately? And I got no problem with those rules. I know the rules going in. I'm happy to play the game that way.
Yeah, they honestly don't really like anybody. I mean, it's hard to even say whether it's baseball, football, wrestling. The fan bases are so critical of commentary because it's what's telling you the story. But anybody who doesn't know the history and doesn't know, obviously, the contributions of those that always come before them, you're not educating yourself properly. But one of the things I just want to tie in here before we start to wrap it up here in a minute is the fact that your one-man show has kind of set the pace for not only the stories that you've had in your career, but also, a rash of a lot of other one-man shows coming. And right before our event, you'll be in Washington, D.C., coming back to the D.C. Improv to do your one-man show yet again. And when we spoke to you in 2015, you were getting to do it for the first time in the North Carolina area as part of the NWA Legends Weekend. But now here we are 2 years later. How do you like the progress of the places you've been and how your show may have evolved just based off of being, one of these first guys to get out there and do this one-man show style event?
Well, I had a blast. It was a blast doing it. It was uncharted waters for me, and still is. I'm still learning. I'd like to think I'm better at it than when we first talked. I've had a lot of shows under my belt now. I'm glad that others, I know Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson are doing some shows, and that's been a little bit of an adjustment for my scheduling because they've been very aggressive, to their credit, and they're using some of that day of WWE pay-per-view shows to book their own events. And there's no reason to go into the marketplace and me to compete with them. It's senseless. It's not a wrestling war. I'm friends with those guys. I want them to do well. So it's competitive out there in that regard, but I'm glad that other guys are doing it and following that kind of that lead. I know Bill Goldberg just had a great success over in the UK doing this one, Q&A, one-man show type thing. So I'm having fun doing it. I'm going to be the last time I was in the DC Improv was a Sellout, and it's a great venue. It's pretty damn intimidating because all these great comedians, I'm not really a comedian at all. I'm certainly not a stand-up. But nonetheless, the DC I say this all the time, the DC Armory. I got RoboCop in my head, I guess. I can't get him out of my head. But that's another story. DC Improv is Thursday, August 10th, as you guys mentioned. Then we're going to, my producer, Raphael Morphy, who's old WWE guy, now does some work for Impact and his own company, is going to, we're going to go from DC up to Philly and get ready for that. Our gig there with you guys on Saturday. So, and then I got another show on the Friday night of SummerSlam weekend in the Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. So that's going to be a big show to kind of kick off SummerSlam. I've got my biggest mystery guest booked on that show since I had Steve Austin come as a walk-on in New Orleans at WrestleMania 30. I'm really, really excited about this, and that's not the old pro wrestling hyperbole. This is a big deal for me, and it's going to be great for the fans that'll be in New York City. So, and I'm coming to Boston in December. And also, regarding the New York thing, guys, Bruce and Conrad are going to be there that weekend too. I just moved my date to Friday, and they're going to do some stuff on the weekend. So, more power to them. I hope they do great. People can come to see both events. They're both different. If you're a wrestling fan, you should have fun at both of them. But I'm having fun doing these shows, and I just gotta, I gotta watch how I'm doing them, so I can do them right with the book coming out, with all these damn book signings. And ironically, I should have planned it better because I always, I block off football season. I'm going to go to every OU football game, home and away, God willing. And so I got to balance my football schedule with my book signings, and then maybe those. Then I may have to wait after football to kind of really resume the one-man shows. But I have fun doing them and interacting with the fans. The meet and greets are great. You're great stories, and it's the photo op thing and all that. And I love meeting the fans. They're so nice, and I owe them so much. They got great stories and memories, and so do I, and we share those. So it's a fun thing for me, and that's another one of those deals. I'm around people that like JR, and that may sound as egotistical as hell, but when you've been in a situation like me this year where, my wife and I were together 25 years. She was my rock. She was my Steelers fan. She was the great Italian cook. She's a Pittsburgh girl. She was a Bruno fan, all that good stuff. 10 years younger than me, and it just was wonderful. So I'm trying to mask my emotions by being around wrestling fans and people I work with, and the WWE work, Access work. And it's not just, well, you're strong, JR. I'm not really strong at all, guys. I fake this stuff damn good. I'm hurting, but this allows me to heal a little bit. So there's a lot of motivations for doing these shows and these signings and the icons of wrestling, all those things. That I really, really look forward to them. And I need to be there, and I need to see people and hug and shake hands and take pictures. It's big for me. It's bigger now than it's ever been.
And I'll just dispel all the rumors now. We will not be the surprise guest in the New York show. So I just want to put the rumors to rest before we get out of hand here. But, JR, I have to ask this now. You're starting to hit cities again here, coming back to D.C. Has there been one city that completely knocked your socks off that you might have underestimated going in?
Oh, golly. We've had some, I guess, I never thought when we did 3 shows, and some of my management team and some of my associates were a little leery of me wanting to book 3 shows at WrestleMania in Dallas. And we had the House of Blues booked. It has about 1,000 capacity. We sold out 3 shows in Dallas. And I honestly thought we'd sell out 1, maybe 2. But to go clean all 3 of them was pretty extraordinary. But the Dallas was probably the most, the biggest surprise. But, Chicago's been good, as you would expect. There's markets I haven't played. I haven't played L.A. yet. I haven't played Oklahoma even. We're still working our way through these things. But, I did the thing in Charlotte was good with the NWA Legends. I don't remember any bad houses. I don't remember any houses where we had some challenges because of weather in New Jersey one time, but it was still a pretty decent house. But it's been good. I don't overbook my venues. Venues are average size. The 1,000-seater in Dallas was bigger than we've ever used, but that was good. And we sold out. We sold out in San Jose on WrestleMania weekend there in Santa Clara, and that's where I brought out Samoa Joe as a surprise. And he hadn't even started WWE yet, and I think the match we're all going to see in Dallas at Great Balls of Fire was the match I booked that day 3 years ago, where it was in California, because I personally wanted to see Lesnar and Samoa Joe get after it. So finally that match is here, and I'm excited about that. But nonetheless, every market's been fun, but some of them are just a little bit bigger venues than others. But once you get on stage, you generally can't see how big it is anyway. So, but I'm having fun. I'm better at it now than I was when I first started, and I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that we get great support at these shows.
Now, JR, as we start to wind it down a bit here, we've talked about so many great things, New Japan, what you're doing with WWE. I got to know, though, who is your favorite wrestler ever to call in the ring? Calling The Undertaker's last match, awesome job in the 90s calling Sting, and then later with Steve Austin in the Attitude Era. There's some guys you really, really get up for. Who's your favorite guy to call in the ring?
Oh, that would be like me telling you which of my 2 daughters I like the better, and I can't really do that. I can tell you that every generation's had their guy. In the Mid-South, it was a Junkyard Dog. He created more excitement, pandemonium, and raw emotion than anybody we had on the roster. And Dog was very, very special. He wasn't the best wrestler on our roster, but he was the biggest star on the roster. Obviously, when I first went to WWE, was the first time I had the opportunity to call matches for Bret Hart. And I just, then and I feel now that he's one of the all-time greats in any generation. So being able to call Bret Hart matches for the first time in my career and his was a big, big deal for me, and it still is. But then you get into that Attitude Era, and there's so damn many. We had a locker room full of main event guys that loved to compete with each other. And so, the leader of the pack in the Attitude Era was Stone Cold. And he's still one of my best friends. Through his personal issues, marital issues, my marital issues, other things, he has been, we've become great friends. And obviously, when The Rock got hot, which didn't take long, he was another one. I had an emotional investment in these guys. I signed them. I was the guy there. I was in charge of talent, and so I had a big investment in those guys. Mick Foley, one of the great. I've always said Dallas Page is the greatest overachiever I've ever been around, but if he's not, then Mick Foley might be. Mick is just overachieved everything that we anticipated. He's a treasure to be around too. So it's hard when you're in that role of you're hiring the guys and you're managing them and you're booking them and you're doing the payroll, et cetera, et cetera. It's hard to figure that one guy out. But Undertaker was always the conscience of the locker room. He was the captain of the team. He still is in my eyes. So many fellas. I've been really blessed with some, signing John Cena, who was working for a moving company, driving a limo. When I saw him in L.A. for Rick Bassman's organization, and see where he's evolved. It's heartwarming, those guys. And it's amazing how many talents that we signed that have become legit millionaires. And I feel really cool and happy that we could be a little bit a part of that opportunity to afford them the opportunity. But boy, they ran with the ball. So all those guys. But I guess the top of the list, if I had to pick one guy, it's going to be Stone Cold.
Nice. I love it. I almost knew you were going to go there because obviously that is so synonymous. The Attitude Era, you calling, Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold. But, everyone, or they should know, or at least we know, you're the greatest play-by-play announcer of all time, the greatest commentator of all time. But few people may not realize you're probably the greatest head of talent relations they've ever had. But on the flip side, who do you think was the worst signing you ever had? Could you kind of just mention maybe a guy or two that didn't pan out the way you thought he might?
Well, I can tell you that I've said this before in my shows during the Q&A. That's one of the great things about our ringside shows, in my opinion, is that the Q&A section, because I don't take the questions in advance. They're not censored. I don't know what the fans are going to ask, and they can ask anything they choose. If you're nice enough to buy a ticket and come see me, then golly, I'm not going to censor you. You're going to say what you want to say. So, or ask what you want to ask. I said this before. I thought we had one class. We had one class. We had one class that had Cena, Orton, Batista, Lesnar, and Shelton Benjamin. Arguably, the best athlete of the entire group was Shelton Benjamin. And I didn't think that we, as a team, in the talent relations side, did everything that we could do to help make Sheldon a bigger star. As far as his personality and his verbalizing and things like that. So I thought we really dropped the ball on Sheldon. I'm taking the hit on that deal. I should have pushed harder. I should have pushed creative harder. And that was sometimes an issue there at WWE where I had the talent's interest and Vince's interest at heart, and sometimes that was counterproductive to what the creative wanted. And that don't mean they were wrong and I was right. It just means we had a difference of opinion. But Sheldon I was disappointed in how we developed Sheldon. I thought he should be really a bigger star in hindsight than he was. And you got to be able to evaluate these kids and say what do we need to do to help them. And I don't think we did enough to help Sheldon get over, so to speak. I remember, you guys might remember this too. Do you remember the match Shelton Benjamin had with Shawn Michaels?
Oh, absolutely. Monday Night Raw. No doubt.
It was an amazing athletic wrestling match. Now, of course, you got Shawn Michaels in there who, if Shawn Michaels if Ric Flair is number one in all time in all areas, Shawn Michaels has got to be 1A. In the JR poll, and so I'll give Shawn all the credit in the world because he deserves it. But golly, man, Shelton Benjamin Shawn didn't have to back up a step. It was no slow down. It was a beautiful match. It was a killer match. And then I remember there was another match Shelton had. I thought it was somebody. Oh, he killed it in those damn ladder matches, TLCs. Some of the things he did athletically were jaw-dropping. So when you get a guy like that that's got great timing and athleticism, is strong, he has the greatest. Shelton always had the greatest attribute that any pro wrestler can have on my roster back in the day: reliability. I don't care how good you are, how big your arms are, how you look at an 8x10, how many times you've been a national champion, blah, blah, blah. If I can't depend on you, then all that good stuff I just mentioned means nothing. And Sheldon was a hard-working South Carolina guy that had a lot of class and integrity, and I just thought that in hindsight we could probably done a better job of bringing that personality out in him, and so I've always had that regret because I think the world of the guy. Still do. And I'm sure there are others, I have to give it some thought. If I had some time to think about some of the disappointments, the thing about it is that I don't know if they're really disappointments because everybody's not going to make it. And you know that when you sign them, that some of them aren't going to make it. You know that everybody's not going to headline WrestleMania. But that's what you recruit for. You recruit to that in hopes that you might get a hit. And so that's kind of where we are with that deal. There are a lot of guys that could have been better, and sometimes the guys themselves had self-inflicted wounds to where you couldn't really invest in them because you weren't sure that they were reliable. And I don't want to get into all that because that's the same thing I was bitching about earlier about people, raising hell with me, and just for the sake of getting noticed, I guess, as you guys mentioned. But sometimes the talents were not ready. Some talents wanted to be a main eventer until you got them ready to be in the main event spot where they were going to close the show. And some guys just were not mentally prepared to be the show closer, couldn't handle the responsibility. And you don't know that sometimes until you get them in the game and they're in that role. And then you see, he can't handle it. So I don't know. We had some great talents. We were very blessed. And now the talent pool in wrestling in general right now is pretty damn amazing, I think. I think it's, like I said earlier, I say this in my show all the time, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. There's a lot of good product out there at all levels. Indies, the smaller promotions, ROH, they got some great talents. You hope that Impact rebounds and can become profitable and successful. It's good for the business. It's good for those guys and their families. So I think all wrestling fans are incumbent, fellas, to support wrestling. Obviously, you're going to like some brands, some presentations better than others. But the ones you like less don't need to be gut and quartered. They don't need to be crucified. And that's what I see a lot. And that's what I read certain websites. I don't go in a lot of them. I don't need to hear somebody's, why something don't work. I like to hear, does the glass always have to be, golly, half empty? Can it not be half full? So that's just personal choice. The negativity is not cool. It's not becoming of a good wrestling fan, I don't think. And look, as wrestling fans, we get the hell beat out of us anyway by our buddies and our peers for being a fan of pro wrestling. You guys have heard it. I guarantee you've heard it, and I've heard it all my life. I've had marriages that swung the bad way because wrestling was not desirable. The business wasn't desirable, and whether I made a mistake or not, I unfortunately at times chose the business over my family, and that was something I wish I had a chance to do over. I'd addressed it differently, but I talk about that in my book about that and some really revealing stuff in that regard. So I think it's a great time to be a fan, and I look forward to work with you guys on Saturday, August the 12th in good old Philadelphia, and I guarantee you we'll be eating some cheesesteaks.